Sydney unit rents crash. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I've got my morning stein of coffee, and I thought we'd have a look at a domain article which is discussing, well, big falls in Sydney rents. Before we go through this, let's jump over to the Property Council data room, and let's get an understanding of just what some of the rents are in Sydney. Now, I live in Brisbane. Rents are not nearly as exciting as they are in Sydney. And frankly, hearing how much some people pay for small places to live in Sydney, I really feel sorry for people trying to scrape together enough to get into a first home. It sounds like a nightmare, to be honest. So let's look at the median residential unit values. In Sydney, 700 grand with change. And all these figures are from the 31st of March. We go down to residential unit rents. You're talking $530 a week. $530 a week. So Sydney's all over the place with how much property costs. I'll bring up this chart, and this shows unit price growth. And it's a great demonstration of just, well, the inequalities in property. A lot of it is to do with location, location, location. So the dodgy bastard who's selling your property out west, you know, in the Red Rooster area, property always goes up. Invest now, pay extra. You know, use that home builder grant to get those more expensive fixtures and fittings, as we saw some people argue for over in Perth. It shows you, you know, it's going to be a mixed table. So let's jump back here to this article and have a look and see what is happening to these rent prices. Remember we were reading before how people were talking about a recovery. How property was going to go up, how property's good. Just when you start to peel the layers away, we're seeing rents fall in Melbourne, we're seeing rents fall in Sydney, rents falling in Canberra, rents falling in Brisbane. Everywhere is copping it. No city is safe. And I wouldn't even want to know what's happening in the regional areas. I mean, already it's much more affordable. And here's the longer term question. You know, you're seeing it happen in America now where people are just abandoning the cities. They're going for a green change, which is understandable because of a lot of the social unrest they have over there. But how many people wouldn't want to do it just to, if you can work remotely, if you're working from home, I mean, I didn't have much of a commute. We used to have an office out at Yeronga, which is South Brisbane. It's not too far from where I live, but it was still 30 minutes each way to get there and back in traffic. Just not having that, I literally, you know, I'll get up at 5 o'clock and I'll walk down the stairs to my little office at the back here. Not having that commute adds so much to your time. So much time. It's how I started my YouTube rambling. I had time to do it. Probably also how I needed to ramble on YouTube because, you know, when you scale back your business, you don't have many people to ramble at and the wife gets angry. But nonetheless, there are some advantages to working from home. So I wonder if there's going to be a sea change for people. More of them are going to work from home, more will work remotely. So Sydney unit rents fall. House rents hold steady amid the pandemic. So asking rents for Sydney units have recorded the sharpest quarterly drop in 15 years. Seems to be a common story here in all of these articles. Biggest drop in a decade. Biggest drop since 2011. Biggest drop since 15 years. Falling to their lowest levels in 5 years. The cost of renting a unit in Sydney dropped 3.8% over the past 3 months alone to a median of $500 a week, the latest domain rent report released Thursday shows. So they're down to $500 a week. That's $30 off. That puts them, well, still above Canberra. There you go. $500 a week. Damn, that's still a lot of money to put aside for rent. And I mean, just think about it. People are getting this much in rent. And some of them, they haven't even been paying capital. They've only been paying interest only. They're negative gearing it. Shows you. This is what happens when you have a bubble in a sector, everyone. Everything goes up. It affects cost of living. It affects quality of life. And it comes back to the Candlelight effect. You know, refers to the change in relative prices resulting from a change in money supply. And because every time people borrow money. It creates essentially it's creating new money out of thin air. When you borrow money to invest or buy property, that's what happens. We get a change in prices. And the inflatory effect of housing just isn't accurately taken account of in CPI. If you looked at that, our CPI inflation rate will be up 0.5%. Be 0.5% higher than where it actually was. Then the RBA might actually be meeting their targets. The problem is the higher houses are, the higher your rents are, the longer it takes for you to save, the less discretionary spending you can have. Some people will get into a debt spiral where they go, you know what, stuff it. Stuff it. They're sick and tired of hearing Andrew Bolt say, oh, don't have your smash dab, don't have this, don't have that. Particularly when you've got an older generation that had free university, that weren't forced to pay a portion of their money into super, all these other little things that make it bloody hard. But then again, smash dab is insanely expensive, so you just shouldn't buy it. House rents remained unchanged over the June quarter at the median of $530, after the rental rebound seen earlier this year was cut short by the pandemic. The rapid rise in advertised rentals has put pressure on rents, and tenants are using this as bargaining power to negotiate a deal, said Domain senior research analyst Nicola Powell. With Sydney recording a 3.6% vacancy rate last month and an estimated 22,665 rentals left empty. Shoot. 22,000 left empty. How many people are holding on, hoping? How many arrogant people don't want to give a discount and are going to learn the hard way? How many people are going to be forced to sell? You've got banks offering 4 months extensions past September. Some are even talking about extending these home loan holidays until March. What is going on? Doesn't that scream fear? Because remember, the banks don't have to revalue their properties. I was literally talking to a neighbor up the street, and she's going, oh, what do you reckon about property here in our street? And I go, well, you look at it. The guy across the road who's just taken his property off the market, he tried to sell it for what he bought it for 5 years ago. Tried to sell it for the same price. Or it wasn't 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. He couldn't get it. And that was 100 grand less than both our properties are valued by the bank. I'm saying you can't trust the banks. It's meaningless. It's what the properties can actually sell for. If you had to emergency liquefy straight away, what could you get? I wonder how many other people are in that situation. Maybe we're going to see a lot of people in negative equity. How will they be able to hold on? And this is, look at this. Rents are falling. They're falling. You got nearly a 5% year-on-year change. That's drastic. That's a big move. Remember, everyone, property always goes up, eh? So, according to Domain figures, landlords were locked in a discounting war. Dr. Powell said, with rents dropped on almost 30% of listings last month. So now's the time to save money. If people are looking at jumping into the property market, they can understand. You want your own home. You just want that stability and that security. You want to buy a project that you're going to work on forever. But sometimes it may be smarter to just wait and rent a little bit longer, particularly with the market the way it is. 22,000 empty rental properties. What happens when the international students don't return? There's going to be people that need to get someone in. They should take care of their tenants. If you've got a good tenant, guys, keep them happy. Send them a fruit basket. Well, no. Send them a meat basket, salamis and good cheeses. However, Sydney's rental market is highly fragmented, with inner city areas bearing the brunt of price declines as they face the double whammy of increased supply at a time of weaker demand, Dr. Powell said, as households consolidated to cope with economic uncertainties and migration came to a standstill. Inner regions were also home to more renters in hard-hit industries and had been more affected by the influx of short-term rentals rented out long-term. And that's the Airbnb effect, where we're seeing all of these Airbnb properties flood the long-term rental market. People have invested in these fully decked out properties and need to flip them over to long-term rental. A trend likely to reverse as domestic travel resumes. You think? Do you think that will resume? Travel from Victoria to New South Wales isn't going to resume, is it? Domain data shows Sydney's unit median is at the lowest level in 5 years and 9.1% below the 2017 peak. So if we can we'll bring up this chart here, just showing the Foreign Investment Review Board. And you can see 2016, 2017, that was just after all these building approvals for foreign investors came into Australia. Nearly 90% of them were from foreign investors. That was a bubble. That was a bubble. You can see rents are now, down 10% since that bubble. And if we'll bring up here, let's have a look at property prices. 2017, that looks like the peak, and it's definitely hit down. Is this recent jump up at the beginning of 2019, is that looking like it could be a dead cat bounce in the property sector? So, off the back of large city and eastern suburbs, inner west and lower north shore, where rents fell 7.7, 7.4, 6.7 respectively over the quarter. By comparison, rents in Canterbury, Bankstown and the city's west remained flat, with only 1% to the south and 1.6% on the northern beaches. So you're getting here, I mean, there you go, Central Coast, $390. That's a reasonable rent, isn't it? It's gone up 2.6%. So it looks like it's the more expensive properties that are copying it. Although I'd hate to know what you get for $390 out on the Central Coast. Let me know in the comments, guys. Would it be somewhere you'd want to live? Mario Carlino, the agency's national head of property management, said denser city and city fringe regions were also dealing with an increase in new apartments. There you go, oversupply. While there is a large amount of choice, Ms. Carlino said the number of available rentals in her Sydney portfolio was down 18% year on year, with rental demand back on the rise. Our viewing numbers are healthy, but prospective tenants are taking longer to make decisions, she said. Days on the market have drawn out to an average of 30 days. I still remember the last time I ever looked at renting somewhere, and you pretty much had to turn up there with the form already signed and offering above the amount. That was the last time we looked here in Brisbane. It was just that insane to try and find a rental here in the city. It was crazy. It was crazy. And I said, no, I don't want to do it anymore. I just hated playing that game. Oh, boy. I mean, yeah. I think we actually even, the last place we were there for 6 years or something. We ended up they weren't happy with how we cleaned it. We scrubbed it to a T. And I didn't know this. Rachel told me this just recently. They complained because we didn't get our bond back. I didn't realize. They complained we didn't clean enough, and she said, stuff you. keep it. We're not renting again. I guess that was a good feeling. Miss Carlino said most landlords were willing to realign. I guess you wouldn't be getting that these days, would you? They'd be doing everything they could to keep you in. Said most landlords were willing to realign asking prices quickly if needed, or alternatively offer incentives such as a week's free rent. However, some who can afford to are happy to wait for their ideal price. And I had a viewer send me an email or a message was saying that a lot of these rental properties are advertising discounted rents for the first 3 months only, and then boom, straight back up. What do you reckon? You think that's going to last? Domain data showed that Sydney-wide rental listings were up 13% between March and June, with the biggest surges in the city and eastern suburbs and inner west, up 43 and 29%. However, Dr. Powell said a marginal decline in new listing volume since May and an unchanged vacancy rate month on month suggested some stability ahead. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if the good doctor's right there. We'll see. I think we're only seeing the beginning of this, frankly. We're only seeing the beginning of this recession. Unemployment, everything is artificially propped up by government intervention. And it can't go on forever. It can't go on forever. Or it can. But then, the value of our money will be inflated away to nothing, won't it? With plenty of choice for tenants, Marrickville renter Melody Marsh is leaving her share house for a two-bedroom unit at $395 a week. It's now cheaper than it was back in 2015 when it was advertised for $460 a week. And it's also a lot cheaper than it was back in 2010 when it was advertised at $400 a week. I mean, there you go. There you go, $395 a week for a two-bedroom place. You know what? That's roughly $200 each. Still, you get a couple young couples in there. You could get $100 each. 4 people, you could do it. You could do it back in the student days, back in the younger days, you got to do that. I mean, you're talking to someone who had 4 people living from a 2-bedroom house and 4 staff working there during the day. You know, hey, you got to save money, guys. Save money. So when these people say, oh, I don't want to live with a stranger, toughen the hell up. I tried to move in January but could only afford a studio apartment, she said. I knew the market was dropping and decided to look again. Smart girl. The landlord was well aware of the vacancy rate and not wanting to have it sit empty long, so they'd already dropped the price. She said it was probably the best deal I saw while looking. While unit rents have seen the biggest drops, it's houses that are seeing increased demand, she said, as they were an attractive option for those looking to share a place to save. House rents did see sizable falls in inner suburbs, down 5% in the city and east, but the Sydney median held firm due to stable conditions across more affordable outer areas, Dr. Powell said, with rents unchanged in the west, southwest and northwest, and even increasing 1.3% on the upper North Shore. Although there are deals to be had, it was still too early to call it a renter's market, according to Better Renting Executive Director Joel Dinman. Really? We're seeing this in every city, who said many tenants were still finding it tricky to find an affordable home or negotiate a rent reduction. Yes, it's because the landlords haven't experienced a bit of pain yet. Renters were still very reluctant to ask for reductions due to fear of retaliation. The worry was they might be evicted for another reason or when the memorandum ended, so they're not paying their rent. Leo Patterson-Ross, Chief Executive Officer of the Tenants Union of New South Wales, said prices would probably see little change at the lower end of the market due to increased competition for more affordable homes, as renters from inner areas looked further afield for affordability or to upsize to a house while working from home. It's certainly the more friendly market we've seen in a long time. If you've got money, but you're worried for those already doing it tough, he said. We have a concern for people who are already renting on the fringe, who won't have found it possible to move somewhere more affordable if needed. These rent falls always get some commentary about it being a tenant's market. I think the real test is when the people at the lower end are experiencing the same kind of choice and freedom, being courted by the landlords and agents and seeing great repairs and maintenance and other rights. Well, there we have it, everyone. Sydney rents taking a hit, some dramatic moves. You know, the more expensive ones taking a bigger hit. Some of these, Blue Mountains are up. That's nice. 5% down for houses in the city and the east. But you're talking, $950 a week rent there. Over 50 grand a year. Units, quarter on quarter, 7.7, 7.4, 6.7. And remember, it's only just the beginning of what's happening here with this recession. What do you think, everyone? Do you think this will manifest in the valuation of some of these properties? Is it still time to buy into these investments? What will happen with all the people that are negative gearing upon negative gearing upon negative gearing and aren't paying any capital? As always, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you next time.